Today, we're driving around in another golf game, going from the starting house to the park loop and back, aiming for a sub 8-minute time. While we're doing that, I'm going to do a little unstructured rambling about the topic of the week, an early attempt to define this series. Not an easy task, given that it doesn't really exist yet. Let's start with what Car Talk of the Week isn't, to see if that gives us something to work with. First off, it probably isn't going to be weekly, despite the name. Sometimes there might be a burst of videos that make sense to release in a short period. Other times there may be long droughts between posts. I really think that lack of schedule is for the best in terms of quality of content. Secondly, it is absolutely not going to be a podcast. It may resemble one, or even be superficially indistinguishable, but I've made the conscious decision to never be a podcaster, and flat out refuse to accept that this might make me one by some definitions. We are each entitled to the opportunity to define ourselves, and I am not someone who has a podcast. Lastly, it won't be a video game Let's Play content series. I'm not as philosophically opposed to making that in the future, but this series will be something else. That said, I do plan on playing a video game in just about every one. Probably most often this one, another golf game, and most often driving around. But not always. Open to suggestions in this department. Okay, so Car Talk of the Week is a not podcast sometimes, but not always, featuring video game driving footage, and it won't be weekly. So where does that leave us? My hope is that it'll be a place to casually explore ideas that might one day get repackaged into marginally more structured formats like video essays, critical reviews, or weird art pieces in various mediums. I'd like a lot of the episodes to be collaborative, with guests whose thoughts and backgrounds align with each episode's topic, but I imagine a good amount will be solo. It's a sort of peek behind the curtain at what the earliest stages of a video essay or concept album or other piece of in-images output might look like. Think of them like early demo tapes, but instead of being confined to music, they can be for anything. Most often, video essays. I think we're getting closer. That's probably a good segue into the broader question of what is in-images. In-images started as sort of a band in a loose sense, and maybe it still is. They, or well, we, made music sometimes, but also made weird audio-based conceptual art pretending to be music. I, Justin, was most responsible for the insertion of the weird, less listenable anti-music elements into our releases, and while it really resonated with a small minority of listeners, it also made accessing the actual music a pretty laborious task. If you're curious what I mean by that, you can check out some of the stuff in the original music playlist, a dubious title given that the sounds included are, at times, not so original and not so music. Okay, so it's a weird band that makes not music. How did we get to video essays? When I think about the kinds of things I was trying to say with that project, the truth is that video essays are a very natural conclusion or evolution of early in-images. I often tried to encode a lot of meta-commentaries on music and art as a whole through the use of genre cues, candid recordings, scripted monologues and dialogues, layered lyrics, and a lot of other near indecipherable nonsense that was inserted between or on top of more traditional songs. If you've ever heard the full version of An Attempt to Tip the Scales by Bright Eyes, in-images was like if a band was trying to do that all the time, and with a much rougher, more poorly defined lo-fi sound to it. While I'm personally quite happy with the type of output that project generated and immensely grateful for the people it did connect with, it was a poor medium for communicating ideas. I think in-images in its newest form has the capacity to be something much more grounded, a platform for creating art-adjacent output that doesn't have to hide behind so many layers of abstraction, and hopefully with less demanding barriers to entry. If there's a spectrum that exists between highly structured, unabstracted video essays and ultra-abstract concept albums, I'd like in-images to explore both extremes and everywhere in between. I think this video lies on that spectrum, closer to video essay than music video, but with elements of each. Beyond in images, this project also traces its roots to 2223 Media, an even harder to define video-based project that hosted an archive of performances by various artists from underground and DIY scenes across the US. If you go digging, you might find some abstract short films, visual artist features, and other non-music projects from the 2223 days. On top of that, this channel has been a home for the Museum of You, a strange sort of unplayable video game I've contributed to that may or may not fall under the In Images umbrella. It may seem like this is an artist portfolio version of throwing spaghetti at a wall, but I promise there are connections and through lines between it all that makes it make sense, at least to me. That said, it seems obvious that settling on exact definitions gets more difficult the closer we look. But I think if we zoom out, the edges are beginning to appear. Let's check back in on the driving. This one has been tough. A lot of back roads with little margin for error when cornering tightly or drifting to conserve momentum. The park route is also punishing with blind curves and cliffside roads. I think I'm glad this one's almost done. I also may have lied before when I implied this was the first episode of Car Talk of the Week. It's the first official episode, maybe, but I think the spiritual predecessor is a video I put out, funny enough, exactly 1 week ago, called Doing Anything But Golfing in Another Golf Game. Alternate title, This Is Not an Endorsement of Drunk Driving. In it, I'm completing my current best personal speedrun of Drunk Driving Simulator 6-Pack Highway Lap, a minigame and category that no one else is aware of or competing in. In it, I ramble on, highlighting some of the things I love about another golf game, and some of the thoughts playing it has stirred up. Those thoughts eventually grew into a longer, marginally more structured follow-up, an abstract portrait of infinite frustration, another video about another golf game. That follow-up was also one of the first of its kind, my exploration into a format I'm tentatively dubbing ambient video essays. It's my hope that the process of starting with a casual Car Talk of the Week and then expanding into a follow-up video essay works well for consistently converting unstructured, rambling thoughts into something more tangible. And if it doesn't, I hope it at least provides some chill, vibey audio to listen to while falling asleep or doing laundry or something like that. Maybe it'll even inspire the birth of a speedrunning community for another golf game, because I guarantee I won't be the world record for long if anyone else gets to try and race. This has been episode 1 of the show that is not a podcast, not weekly, and sometimes, but not always, about driving around with me, your host, Justin of In Images. Welcome to Car Talk of the Week. One last thing. This is not intended to be an infringement on the copyright of Car Talk, a radio talk show that ran on NPR for the better part of half a century before going off the air in 2012, the existence of which somehow slipped my mind until long after this episode was recorded. Anyway, I'm hoping that we'll either stay small enough or be lucky enough to keep the name, but I'll get to thinking on alternatives in case a cease and desist letter arrives. Driving thoughts, maybe? Rambling hours? Laps and yaps? Open to suggestions in the comments. Another last thing, I promised the last one. I'd like to leave you with an end note about an attempt to tip the scales, the song playing right now at the end. Listening to it again for the millionth time, I think the earlier comparison is maybe even more fitting for this new branch of the project than the old. I'd absolutely like to tap into and expand on the specific vibe that this surreal, half-joking, fake radio interview gets at in this song. It's self-referential, jarringly breaks the standard format of its medium, and is absurd in an amusing way, while still including enough sincerity to be thought-provoking. I think it's really worth going and listening to if you haven't heard it before, but I also imagine I'll be covering it in more depth in a future episode of this series or a more fleshed-out video essay. I think this era of the project is my attempt to tip the scales, not just in the sense of being similar to the song, but also the phrase in the title itself. In a universe full of random noise, these kinds of rambling thoughts are what my contributions to that scale often boil down to. And the goal? I don't know. Create feelings, I guess. A song. It never ends up the way you plan it. And to quote another piece from earlier in this video, I want to see the movies of my dreams. This seems like the best way to go about that.
Hi, we're back. This is Radio KX, and we're here with Connor Oberst of the band Bright Eyes. How are you doing, Connor?
Fine, thanks. Just a little wet.
Oh, it's still coming down out there.
Yeah, I sort of had to run from the car.
Well, we are glad you made it. Now, your new album, Fevers and Mirrors, tell us a little bit about the title. I notice there is a good deal of repeated imagery in the lyrics. Fevers, mirrors, scales, clocks. Could you discuss some of this?
Sure. Let's see. The fever is...
First, let me say that this is a brilliant record, man. We're all really into it here at the station. We get...
Shh.